Hey, Fred, that smell on set's getting worse. Copy you.
Let's thank everybody for coming and welcome Rasha Drachkovitch from 44 Blue.
Woohoo! In the house.
I have been telling everybody.
I'm going for the donuts.
We can do donuts. Donuts, you don't get a body like this overnight.
No, I know what you mean. Like, hello.
What's your favorite thing on set to have in the morning? Is it a donut or is it a bagel?
It is a donut for sure, but if you have a bit of honey, I will follow you anywhere.
Oh.
That's my kryptonite. Like,
really?
Yeah, they're hard to find. And, we had one show that just the craft service person went out of their way and brought a bit of honey to set. And I was like, it's my Red Bull, just pop those things and get going.
Oh, thank you for coming. You were one of the first people that when we first started talking about this show, I was like, I have to get him in here. He was always one of my favorites, and you have always sounded great stories. And I just wanted to bring you in and just find out about you.
Well, just happy to be here, and real pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
What started you in entertainment? What got you to decide I want to be in entertainment?
So, growing up, obviously watched a lot of television, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I went to Stanford, which is really more of a brainiac school. I got in because of my dad. It wasn't because of anything else. And, you go pre-med, pre-law, whatever. And I was like, none of those appealed to me. And one day I was walking by the radio station there, KZSU, and I hear this really cool jazz, and this guy go, "Welcome to KZSU, home for jazz in the Bay Area." And it called me. Went down into the basement of Memchu. There's a DJ there. And I'm like, this is a student radio station. And there was a job opening for sports director. So I was like, that's perfect. I love sports. Radio's kind of cool. Got the job and became the voice of Stanford football, baseball, and basketball. And we had 5 listeners, so that was cool. All five. And I thought, I really want to do this. And my dad was a professor from, Serbia. He had the deep accent. He's, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? You should be a political scientist. Or you should be a researcher. Like, TV, radio?" And I said, "Dad, trust me, this is what I want to do." So I cut a reel. I wanted to be a sports, anchor. And I sent the reel to all over the country. Only one station responded, and that was in Tucson, Arizona. KZAZ, the 4th station in Tucson. So not even the biggest station in Tucson. So they had 6 viewers. And I went down there, and the news director was sitting across from me like this. And she goes, "Loved your tape. You've got a lot of potential, but we can't pronounce your name, okay? Like Rasha Drachkovitch, maybe in Cleveland or Pittsburgh you'd fit in, but this is Tucson." And she takes a little piece of paper and she pushes it across the table. And as I open it, she goes, "This is your new name." And I became Roger Dupree. Okay? News, sports, and weather for KZAZ. They did a whole promo thing, and I'm like, Roger Dupree. And I called my dad. He said, "I got the job." He goes, "I'm so proud of you." And I said, "But they changed my name." "How can they change your name? You should be proud of your name." So I lasted 2 weeks, right? Wasn't very good with this stuff, but I fell in love with production, because a lot of the old timers there showed me how to, I was a one-man band, so I would shoot, I would go out, put a mark on the wall, tripod with a camera, focus on the mark, push record, come over. Earlier today at the school board meeting at Tucson, and come back, edit it, do it on the air. And I was like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So after I got let go, I ended up in Philadelphia working for a company called Greatest Sports Legends. And they were basically a syndicated sports show. Like 30 for 30s you see today. They did these 30-minute documentaries on Pele, Joe DiMaggio, Will Chamberlain. And I was the production manager, It was pretty cool. And I was like the guy that booked the crews and booked the athletes and, got the craft service and all. I was in heaven. It was shot on film. And the editor, big time editor, quit. And this is in Philadelphia. And my boss, Burl, said, "Can you edit?" And I said, "Of course I can edit." So he goes, "You're hired." So I sat down at a table just like this, a Steam Deck, with all the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with the audio sync and everything, looking at 16 millimeter. and fake it till you make it, right? Pretending I knew what I was doing. And the first episode was The Legend of Howard Cosell, right? The famous, like, this is Howard Cosell. So I edited this, got it to the print, got it on air. It was always like 3 frames out of sync. I'm just saying. Because I didn't know what I was really doing. And Burl was like, you're our editor. And Aaron was the foundation of how I got into it, because as an editor, it really is the foundation for storytelling, like how you put scenes together, use music and so on. And that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
What was your favorite set that you were ever? What was the one that you were just like, this was the greatest at?
Back before 44? Yeah, back in the day. Well, filming with these athletes was like amazing. I mean, they were my heroes growing up, Jerry Rice or Rick Barry or, Pete Rose or whatever. So to be on set, we shot the show at La Costa, which was this incredible golf country club down in San Diego. So as a kid, 21, 22, my job as production manager was to run the film from this amazing set, like, California at its best. I had to drive up from La Costa to Photochem right here in Burbank, wait for them to develop it, then come back the next morning and we would look at dailies on a projector. And I was like, this is the greatest job in the world. I get to live at a beautiful golf course. I get to work with athletes, and I'm thinking, it's the whole world is opened up. Like, this is what it's going to be like from now on out. So, that was pretty cool.
What made you look into starting to own a company and start going that way?
Yeah. So, my wife and I, we met in Philadelphia and got married here in San Francisco, but she got a job at Telepictures. I moved from that Philly sports company to LA and got a job at INLA. And it was kind of a magazine show, cutting edge. And I was collecting, don't ask me why, sports bloopers. I was collecting them off of the satellite feed, just like a guy getting hit in the nuts. A bowling guy with a skull in his bowling ball, hitting someone in the knee. So I'm collecting this stuff, and I know why. And Bob Uecker was really big. He was an infamous baseball player, terrible baseball player, turned it into a comedic career. So, light beer commercials must be in the front row. So I was like, you know what? Let's put Bob as the host, put all these clips together. I sold the idea to my old boss who funded it, and we did Bob Uecker's Wacky World of Sports. And it was 4 one-hour specials in syndication. I kept my job at ABC, and they did really well. And Burl said, can you do 26 half hours? Like, this is a great filler for weekend sports. And at that point, I realized, I need to start a production company. So we started 44 Blue, just the two of us, June of 1984, right before.
Look at that. We're on, what are we today?
40 years.
We're 40 years now.
I know.
That's amazing.
Isn't that cool?
And that's what that is up there.
Yeah. This is
Blue.
Japanese for 44 Blue. So, yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
They told me. And so we started the company, and it did really well. And it was like, oh God, we got to get a checking account, got to get become real at this. And that was the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah. 40 years later. Pretty wild.
What was your best memory of back then when you were just struggling to open it up?
So it was, the 2 things I'm most proud of are, one, we've always had a show on the air. So that's been really tough going through all the, change in the industry. But, making payroll every Friday was really important because, even when we were small and I had 2 or 3 people working for me, they expected Friday to get a paycheck. And sometimes the network wouldn't pay on time. And that was like, they're dependent on me. So that kind of work ethic early on really made me take maybe less risks financially, and just if it's going to get paid on time, then I'm going to hire you and give you these 6 weeks to work because I can't guarantee you anything after that.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of an honest interaction with people, so that you never got in a position where trust me, checks in the mail, right? So those early moments of actually making payroll and then seeing these shows that were just silly shows. They were silly shows. They were literally guys getting hit on the head with basketballs, and I wrote the theme song to it, and we did I was doing puppets in the background, with shadows doing, all these kind of crazy bits, and then to see it on air and to see it do well and get paid for it, I was like, this is great. I want to do more of this.
Working with your wife, how has that been as far as 44 Blue?
So Steph was a very successful studio executive at Disney, at Warner's, at Telepictures, and so she kept her executive job on a day-to-day basis. So it gave me the freedom of like, she's bringing in a paycheck, we're getting good medical, we started a family, like Steph's really bringing in, our security blanket. It gave me a chance to take some more chances, doing crazy shows around the world, trying to sell here, trying to sell there, without the full-on pressure of like, being the only breadwinner in the family.
Yeah.
But also because she was in the industry, I could run things past her and go like, what do you think of this idea or that idea? And again, she was there to launch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and, The Bachelor. And so she was dealing it like as an executive level.
Yeah.
So she was hearing these amazing stories about like how things are being done. And then I'm doing it kind of more on a mom and pop level where I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're actually paying that much for that and doing that much for this. So it continues to be an amazing partnership.
Yeah.
She came back to 44 Blue full time in 2003. So it's been 20 years. And, she's got her productions, her lanes for type of shows that she likes to do. I'm kind of more of the, edgy, action adventure shows. And it works really well.
Yeah.
We still talk to each other.
That is a question. How are you able to keep it out of the house? Or is it just part of the house in general and you're able to kind of manage it that way?
It's kind of like, you think, oh, you got to disconnect. We don't. We literally have a full day, come home and watch TV. Like we like our guilty pleasures. We love to go in and look at how other shows are doing and so on. So it's with us, like you said, all the time. It's not like, oh, when we come home, we're like, completely, no business in the house. We're talking about it all the time. And our kids, our three boys, kind of grew up with it. So they're now in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's really a family-run business. So, yeah.
What's your favorite type of show to zone out on when you get home?
Oh, so many. So Succession, I love. That was my guilty. Like I just love
I
that
was a
show.
big Brian Cox guy.
Totally.
Original Hannibal liked it.
Oh my God, Yeah, that one was amazing. I love that. I love shows like Hard Knocks. Kind of real reality shows with stakes. Now I'm really into like Shogun, which is like again, it's like these epic, shows. Pretty much. That's kind of what we watch. Although we'll sample now, like there's so many portals and platforms to watch. We're like all over the place watching different shows. So
that's what I feel like. I always felt like at a certain point about a few years ago, I'm no longer competing with other TV shows. Like back in the days, like Bob Uecker's competing against other sports shows. Now you're competing with like somebody's phone for their attention.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like in every aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doing work for Netflix, they tell us their algorithm, which is basically if you're going to produce for us, something has to happen every 4 minutes. Like you cry, you laugh, you're surprised. It's keeping people, engaged. Yeah. That last, 20 seconds with the countdown, like you want to push that next episode, like, it better be a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Because, you want retention. You want them to watch, as a viewer, you want all 6-8 episodes to watch. So it's like, where was that in the 80s and 90s? Like back then, we're just, it's on the air.
Yeah. Hey, somebody liked it.
I know. Let's talk about it.
It's crazy. Yeah. But I actually remember when I was at your place, when I was there, I learned the triangle.
Yeah.
You used to have that up on the wall, the production triangle.
Yeah,
fast, cheap, and quick, right?
Yeah.
Fast, cheap, and quality.
Quality. Yeah. Pick two and lose the third.
Yeah. I'm now convinced with the way technology's gone, I can get all three.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm convinced I can get all three. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Well,
I'm
if
still
you can, let me know.
I know, but I'm sure I can. I'm sure I can. What, you got any morning rituals? You got any rituals? You got any music you listen to? Anything you have to get into a mindset when you're starting to get there? How do you prepare for your day?
So our sets are so varied. A set could be maximum security prison. That's a different mindset than going to the Christopher Lowell show up at Universal, where we're
same thing.
dealing with
same pass.
dealing with, I'll never forget, I was like in South Africa filming with the South African police. It was like ridiculous. We were getting shot at in Soweto, and we're back at the hotel, literally like neat whiskey going like, it's only TV. We just got shot at, and there's a boom, 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 boom on the door. Mr. Drachkovitch, urgent fax, you know. I'm like, okay. Fax is from Christopher Lowell, who was this designer on Discovery for years. It was called the Christopher Lowell Show. He was the original makeover guy. And it's from him going, Rasha, we need to make an executive decision right away about how much fabric to order for next season. You must get back to me right away. And I was like, I don't think there's a producer in the world that just got shot at and has to make a decision about fabric in the same like 24 hours. So that's producing.
Some of the phone calls you even get and going through, I mean, even when we were doing the lockups and stuff and the different, like even the requests or the this, or even like you're at a meeting and you're having a story point. They're like, yeah, you know, today was great. We came by and they're making wine in a toilet. You know, like, okay, this is a conversation.
Yeah,
All right, let's figure this one out then. Okay.
I know. No, that's so yeah, going to set is so different. We've done talk shows, we've done court shows. Those are more traditional.
Yeah.
You show up and, you know, you have your video village or control room. Everybody's like stationed around the place. You know, crews are on their peds and all. Like that is a traditional approach to it. And I would say there, you know, you get into a rinse and repeat mode because you're doing 180 episodes, you know, as opposed to, let's say, going to the set of like a boot camp show we did with Dwayne Johnson called Rock and a Hard Place for HBO. And that's going to set like at 4 a.m, where these youth offenders are getting their head shaved and transforming from juvenile delinquents into boot camp participants. And, you know, it's a military, so they're about to get yelled at. And the coolest thing there is there's Dwayne Johnson, whose idea was showing up as The Rock.
Yeah.
And we're filming with him at like 4 a.m. going, all right, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is like the best ever.
Where was one of your favorite places that you ever just woke up or like in that moment where like, I can't believe I'm shooting this? Like whatever it was, what was your place that you just can't believe that you were shooting?
So I wish we did shows like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. We didn't, okay? We did shows like The World's Toughest Prisons, okay? We did the red light districts of the world, okay?
Which have beautiful sunsets.
I'll tell you, the worst place I ever woke up
Okay.
was in a Chinese prison. Okay? I'm not kidding you. We were the first Western crew to get inside a Chinese maximum security prison. And we were filming there. It's like pretty amazing. You're looking around going like, how did this happen? We're in there. State Department told us, I got a note from them saying, please don't go. Our relations aren't very good. I said, we have non-refundable airline tickets. I have to go. So, spoken like a producer.
Sorry, American government.
And they're like, all right, we're not sending the Marines in. So we go, we film, and it's amazing. Like we're seeing like this incredible world, and we're like, we can't get, this is for A&E investigative reports. And we're like, we can't wait to leave and come back and film. And Chinese official comes over and goes, excuse me, the warden would like to see the footage. And I was like, well, you know what? We shot on NTSC, you're on PAL, different circuits, you can't see it. He goes, no, we have a technician who has a machine that can transfer it. And I'm like, holy cow, basically saying to us, if you don't see it, you're not leaving. So my cameraman, Mike, kind of a fired up guy's like, you can't turn it over. Those are our masters. Like, there's no way. And I'm like, Mike, unless those Marines are going to get us out of here, they can do whatever they want. So we spent the night in a Chinese prison while they watched the footage. And the next day they were like, thank you. And I told Steph that story when I got back. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you thinking? And I said, well, look, getting the shots.
Yeah,
you know?
we got it worked out.
So it's not to your point here, like, look at Maui at this time of morning. It's more like, can we leave a Chinese prison? So stories like that,
Was there one place that you were ever, besides the Chinese prison, obviously,
yeah.
was there another place?
Oh, just that.
Yeah, besides the Chinese prison, was there any place where you were worried about your safety in the moment?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, over the years, a lot of these shows were pretty risky. And this goes back to like Steph was holding down the fort with her executive job, dealing with like, Regis Philbin decisions. So here's yeah, you wouldn't believe it. So we were chased by the Yakuza in Tokyo, filming in the red light district. Okay, we were shot at, like I said, in Soweto. We were stoned in Ramallah, and you'll appreciate this. So we're in the occupied territories in a Hertz rental van, and we have an Israeli guide, and we're going to Ramallah to film the bomb squad, and he makes a wrong turn, right? And as he makes a wrong turn, we're leaving, going back down the same road, and all of a sudden, when I say we got stoned, we got hit, like pelted with rocks because of obviously the conflicts. And all I could think about is, I didn't sign the insurance waiver on this rent day. I should have signed the waiver because they basically told it. Not like, you know what, we might not get out alive. I'm going straight for the insurance waiver. So I turned this van in like a couple days later, and they were like, we the occupied territories? I go, I know, our driver made the wrong turn. It's like a $7,000 bill. So stuff like that, going into places where our lives were kind of endangered. I had to stop that after a while. I was like, okay, you know what? I'll go back and do the Christopher Lowell show.
Yeah. Where's the fabric problem? I need the fabric.
I know. Give me the fabric.
One of my first sets when I was a production manager, the first movie, it was an Eric Stoltz film. And I had two really bad mornings. The third morning I was sitting there and my camera truck just pulled up. I had a coffee and I was like, this is going to be a good day. And at full speed, I watched my production truck come smash right into my camera truck, which hit the top of the overpass and ripped the top of the top. And I was just like,
never mind.
Just go back with it. Insurance company.
Yeah, there you go.
But it was like, those were always also like part of producing, like those things in the moments you can throw up, but afterwards you're like, these are going to be the best stories ever.
Aaron, I think back when we worked together, one of the best, line producers we ever worked with. But I just remembered, and I probably told you this story then, when you get a budget and then you have to go like, how are we going to do this? Because the network's only paying this, right? And you're going like, you can't do it. It's impossible, right? I always tell them this story that one of the first shows we sold was called Discovery Sport, Unique Sports of the World.
Yeah.
We went to Japan for sumo, New Zealand for rugby, all over the world. And when I was negotiating the deal with Discovery, they said, listen, we've never done a co-pro, but this is all we can pay. And they paid $390,000 total for 13 episodes. So not per episode. So it was $30,000 an episode to travel the world with 5 people. So when people started complaining, I go, let me tell you what I did. I hired a husband and wife film crew, so only had one hotel room. You can appreciate that, right? Host as needed. You can't make it, you're out, we'll voice it, okay? The biggest trick and this was for post, for travel, for everything, was access baggage. Because back in the day, it was the carnets.
Yeah. And
we were like Sherpas. We had 25 bags of like those big cases of like lights and tripods and cameras this big. And there's 5 of us, so 5 per bag. So when we would go to the counter, right, everybody would back off because they knew I was usually like this. And it depended on the country because it was like rolling dice, like how much they're going to charge. So we go to the Dublin counter for Aer Lingus, and she's this, ticket counter agent. And she's looking at us, and we had a few pints the night before. She goes, oh, looks like the lads had a good time last night. I go, yeah, we did. She goes, did you enjoy Ireland? I said, we did. And she goes, got some excess baggage there, but you know what? If you promise to come back, go through. No charge, right? And I'm like, can I marry you? Like, that's the greatest thing ever. Now, opposite side, we go to Narita, back then, airport in Tokyo, and they see us wheeling in with all this stuff. And culturally there, what they do is they take a calculator and they're like that. And it was like, I don't know, $6,200. And I'm thinking, well, do the math. Like, there goes a couple shoot days. So anybody talking about like budgets and how are we going to handle this because it's so tight, and so I was like, I'm going to tell you the Discovery Sports. We got it on the air. It was great.
That's what I've always said. Even like today, when people are always like budgets are budgets, I'm like, budgets have always been like that. Mm-hmm. It's how you produce, and it's how you basically skin the cat,
Yeah.
solve the problem, whatever. If you are trying to solve a problem with only a telephone and a credit card, yes, it will be expensive.
Yeah.
But if you can talk to somebody,
Yeah.
if you can laugh with somebody,
Yeah.
you can get anything you
You
want.
can work it
You
out.
can walk your way right through. I can't tell you how many times. Like, look, I got stuck in Turkmenistan.
Yeah.
It was 9 hours in that room. Nobody in Turkmenistan enjoyed my humor. You know what I mean? My humor does not
That's a show
translate.
right there.
My
Okay.
humor doesn't really translate to
Didn't
the
work.
Turkmenistan people.
No.
Yeah, they didn't like the Family Guy jokes, the Rick and Morty jokes. It just all fell flat. It was 9 hours of people going,
No. No. Paperwork.
But if you like, I've always thought that, like, if you're just talking with somebody, and you're telling them on TV, people want you.
Yeah.
People want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
It's how you treat people. It reflects, that's how you get through. Look, every production's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And tell me a production that goes perfect, and I'll tell you, I've never heard of it. So you're always dealing with like something coming up, and it's just having the right kind of attitude,
Have you ever had an experience where you've had to actually also get a little bit within the culture as well?
I think, it's funny when you hire fixers in different countries, right? You lean so much on a fixer, right? Because basically they help you with the language, they help you with the customs, they help with that. And I have to say, great fixers are just that. They fix the biggest problems, Fixers who shouldn't be fixers and are your fixer mess things up big time. Because it's basically, you tell them you need green and they bring you red. And they just kind of look at you. So I don't know if it's so much like the relationship with the country, but it is seen through like personality of the fixer you have.
Yeah.
And again, we've remained friends with a number of fixers around the country who, like, to this day, like, I can't believe it's the first time. They'll go like, I've never done a TV show before. You were my first one. I was like, well, great to know. You did a great job. So it is funny how.
There was always, I always get, whenever I got to go get a fixer and it's with an island shoot, this is going to take forever because it's island time.
Yeah.
And it's like everything.
Yeah.
It's like, what time are they going to show up? Sometime between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And you're like, it's not a call time. It's like, it is today. You're like, okay, we'll just wait here for 5
Island
hours.
time.
Yeah.
I know.
Looking back, what is your most embarrassing moment on a set?
So it revolves about this show called Deadliest Warrior. And this was a series on Spike. We took over the 3rd season about who's more powerful, a ninja or a Viking. It was a great format. And so we were doing Genghis Khan versus Hannibal and his war elephants. It was a great matchup. They hated each other. It was a real Ali Fraser. So we're fine with that. And Ellen Raphael, I think you know Ellen Raphael, one of the best line producers. She's line producing. And she gets us together and she goes like, Genghis Khan, we got it. We got guys with bows. We can get extras to do that. Hannibal's got this thing called a war elephant. And we're in Southern California. And war elephants have these tusks, right? There's like one, right? In like Toluca Lake or someplace, And elephant's name is Susie. And she's talking about this. She's talking about that. And that was like when, I forget who said it at the time, but we're in a production meeting. They go, listen, can we just talk about the elephant? Which is a great line to just like lay up, right? So we hire Susie, and the Spike guys come out, gals, and we're filming up in Aqua Dulce at these big areas for those big shows like Wipeout and so on. And the show was all about these tests, and the test was for Susie, the war elephant, to go running down and into a phalanx of like Mongolian soldiers. Were dummies, right? They were built like bowling pins, 1 to 10, and so how are we going to do that? Well, the trainer for Susie goes, I'm on a minute back and I got a watermelon and I'll go in front of Susie. And as soon as she gets to the thing, I'll veer off and her weight will take her right through and she'll tear those guys apart. I was like, it's great. It's going to work great. So we're in Video Village with Sharon Levy from Spike. We're sitting there watching. He takes off. Susie's like, oh my God, there she goes. 2 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, up to 10 miles an hour. He veers off. And what they didn't tell us is Susie's taught not to harm humans. So when Susie realizes no watermelon, humans, she does this pirouette balance, goes through all of them and just knocks the last guy down with like her rear leg. One knockdown. And Sharon Levy says, is it supposed to be that way? And I go, we'll fix it in post. Okay. That was the most embarrassing thing ever. The other one was something maybe you'll relate to. We did an episode called vampires versus zombies. So I'm a big zombie fan, George Romero. And it was a big fight, between the two of them. I actually did Comic-Con to represent the show with Max Brooks from World War Z.
Oh.
And, packed room of 100 people, like, excuse me, which kind of zombie did you use? The slow-moving George Romero zombie or the fast-moving 28 Days Later zombie? And I'm like, this is way over my league. But we do the recreation, and I asked, I would like to play one of the zombies, right? Because there's 60 of them against 3 vampires. So everybody thought, oh, that's a great idea. So they put me in makeup, and I'm like a lounge singer zombie, and fighting these, and we hired this group called The Walkers, I think, and they get hired to do so many of these zombie movies are out there, right? And 40 of them show up, and they come dressed. One guy's a butcher, another one is a plumber. They're all and we have this scene with David Hale. God bless David Hale is directing, and our role of the zombies is to tear apart this corpse on the ground, full of ham and ketchup. We're just supposed to. So we're doing take after take, and I'm next to the butcher guy, take after take, and David Hale's I've got to fix something in the lens. So the butcher guy turns to me and goes, how do you know this outfit here? And I go, well, I'm the executive producer. He goes, hey, everybody, this guy says he's the executive producer. It was pretty funny because it was true. What am I doing, Driving home on the 101 still in my lounge zombie suit. But I was zombie number 44. I was killed with a spike to the head, and that was one of my proudest moments.
That's awesome. I got to be honest. The first thing I was going to ask you was, were they the fast zombies or the slow zombies?
They were the fast ones.
Americans like the slow zombies because you can kill slow zombies, right?
Exactly.
That's fun. I can do it. It's like whack-a-mole.
Raid zombies are scary because they'll get to you before you think.
Non-stop running. Americans are I like the ones that.
You
you hit them in the head, they go down, right? But they come at you slow. That's why I always loved the European zombies freak me out.
Totally.
Oh.
That was fun.
When you look back at all the different jobs on a set, the different crew members, was there ever anyone that you wish you had done?
I think I go back to my roots in editing. There's something to me that just says, give me the clay, put me in a room, and I'm going to put something together. So it's not so much, editors, the kind of joke in production was editors didn't know there was a pandemic because they're always locked in a room. They're like, what? Huh? What's happening? So from a standpoint of that spoke to me from a story standpoint. I mean, I did some directing, which was obviously cool. Wasn't really a very good cinematographer or, so from a standpoint of picking a position that I want to do, I think it would be lock me up and give me some, footage.
If I remember correctly, the other thing that you like to do, because now it makes kind of sense, is music.
Yeah.
So how do you, with music, as a separate thing, do you put music in shows? Do you just building music for yourself? How's your music what is that for you?
So just it started as a business idea, just like rentals and owning the equipment became a really good business decision for our margins. A producer friend of mine said, hey, we thought about music. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you can literally buy a Casio keyboard and make simple drone music put it in your shows in the background, get royalties, and it's the money that keeps on coming long after the shows are done. So I was like, okay, well, I'm a little bit better than I can do more than that. So I said, you know what, this could be a lot of fun. So I started composing at home, started a music publishing company that ended up delivering cues to our shows. What was a really good thing was, because I didn't want favoritism to play hey, the boss's song, we got to pick over the really good song. So I always sent it in blind, and nice. So when we were doing the theme song for Pitbulls and Parolees, I was one of 4 composers that delivered it.
Yeah.
And the network picked my song, Cell Dogs the same way, Lockup the same way. Yep. So it really became a labor of love, to sit there late night composing death row music, you know. And you know what? I strongly recommend it to any production company or producers. Like it is there because music is such an important component, even if it's atmospheric. You know, to any production. Like if you have any chops, you could play anything on a piano. Like do it. You know. So
did you feel like you had to actually become a technician or learn it as technology went?
It was very primitive. It was kind of AD, you know, BD like before digital, and then AD after digital. So in the before digital phase, it was just that. It was pretty straightforward editing. Sometimes with film, cameras were basic. You know, everything was big. You know, tapes were like, you know, 3/4 inch betas. You know, you would shoot in the film, and then you would mail a box of your masters and hope that the mail service would get it back to the bay. There was no backup or redundancies, no DIT, nothing, right? So it was kind of like, you know, a little bit of a Wild West, but we got it done. And then once digital hit, and I saw the first time a demonstration for something called the Avid editing bay, and I was like, whoa, what the heck is this? You can move things, you point, click, and move, and create, and do, and it was like, wow. So obviously that's primitive now compared to what can be done. But he was, you know, now with, you know, uploads and links, and you can send footage and have redundancies and all the rest. It's like, it's a whole other, you know, the complexities are different, the challenges are different, but the bottom line is you're still producing a show. You still have to get the content, still have to tell a story, and hopefully audiences will like it, you know.
As an owner of a company, did that technology, do you think it kind of helped as we went along? And you think it keeps helping the industry?
Yeah, totally. Because we started to invest in, you know, instead of renting it, let's just buy it. Like, let's buy these Avid machines, edit bays can be affordable. You know, let's buy like 10, 15 of them, and the shows will end up paying for themselves. We have a great VP of production, Mark Hamaguchi, who runs all our cameras. Gooch is there. He's got like 5,000 pieces of equipment. Gooch is great because he'd go to NAB and he goes, "Oh, Rash, you got to see the Canon 3.7. We got to get one of those." I go, and then next year it'll be the Canon 3.8.
Yeah,
exactly. It's always changing.
It's always something else.
So we invested in that equipment so we could actually become a service facility that way, you know?
Yeah.
And it really was a good decision for us.
Wasn't there so I remember it was you and Stephanie. Wasn't Stephanie's father there for a little bit?
Yeah, the Colonel.
And
yeah.
the Colonel. And what about your sons? Are they in the entertainment?
Yeah. So number one, we put them all through the lockup scared straight filter, right?
Okay.
They all worked.
I sent one to Serbia,
you
right?
did. Yes, you did. Each one spent a season as a PA inside a prison for lockup. It was kind of a way to learn the business, but also go, oh, I don't want to do that. So a little crazy method, but so they've gone on, you know, our middle son, Tommy, works in London, started his own independent production company, Dream Bay. Wonder where he got that from. So he's doing productions all over globally, which is really exciting for him. And then our youngest son works for us in development, Chris, and again, does decks and PowerPoints and comes up with crazy ideas that we really need. I mean, obviously, times have changed, so it gives us a youthful look at things. So
Bob Uecker. We can get Bob Uecker again. What if? I got a show. We're going to go pitch it today.
Yeah, so it is a family tradition. We really like that.
You and Stephanie, what was the one that you were just like, wow, that was our one. We were really happy with that. You were proud of it. That was just the one that you look back on like,
Well, the one that was the loudest and buzziest for us was Wahlburgers. Right?
Yeah.
Because no one had ever taken A-lister Mark Size and actually produced a follow doc series on the family where Mark actually is in every episode, not as an EP or, you know, guest star every once in a while. So it was super ambitious to do, and I was tested from day one by Mark and his team of, you know, because you know, it's Dorchester. You know, you saw Entourage. It's the real Entourage. They tested me. Mark, I met at the Polo Lounge. He goes, "Why do you think this is a good show?" And I said, "Well, you know, 9 kids, dirt poor, Dorchester. You've gone to be so great in films, music, television, now in the restaurant business. It's a great American story. He goes, when can you be on a plane to Boston? And he puts me on a plane. I go to Boston. I go get met at the airport by, Drama, Nacho, E, the real guys. And they're like, we can't pronounce your name. What do we call you? You call me Drac. So I became Drac. And we went to the restaurant there so I could meet Paul, his brother, and his mother. And they walk in. It's like a scene out of Cheers. Everybody meet Drac. He's the guy Mark's in out here for a reality show. And they're like, Drac, get over here. So they line up these limoncellos, and it's like, Drac. So I'm shooting limoncellos, and we're sitting there at the bar, and a gal gets on the bar and starts to dance, Katy Perry, some kind of song. And Uncle Bob's sitting next to me, one of Mark's guys. He goes, hey, there's a tradition here. The new guy has to get on the bar to dance. And I'm like, Uncle Bob, I'm here on behalf of Mark. It's a business trip. He goes, all right, just telling you, So I think about it, I take off my shoes. I get on the bar. I'm doing the sprinkler, and Drac. Sit down. And Uncle Bob goes, number one, there is no tradition. You're the first son of a bitch who's ever done that. And two, Mark wants you to call him because I sent the video of you doing this. So I get on the phone with Mark in LA. And he's like, we got a show? I go, yeah, I think so. If I can survive it. And that was, 6 seasons, greatest memories. The show was a monster hit.
Yeah.
2 Emmy nominations. Donnie was incredible. Mother Alma was just passed away recently, but she was just like a gem. Paul was the blue collar guy from the whole world. And so as proud of, just because we could prove it. And because everybody was like, how do you guys do that? How did you get them to? So it was really very special.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still do any traditions when you sell?
Yeah.
Do you still do the gong?
So you mentioned Steph's dad, the Colonel. He was great. We had an office there, and he decorated he was retired military with like horse cavalry saddles and helicopter photos and all. And one day he comes in with this empty military shell, gold military shell, this big. And he goes, Raj, I think we need a tradition here that when you sell a show or something, you ring the gong, So I was like, all right, Dick, go for it. So he builds this thing with a mallet. And so when we're fortunate enough to sell a show or get a pickup or, any news, frankly, I would gong in my office, and it was like everybody would like, what? And they would come in, and we'd tell them what's happening, and then we would serve these shots of, it's called Schlivitz, a plum brandy. It's powerful stuff, as you remember. It's like 120 proof. And you do a shot, we would gong, and everybody would like, it's 9 a.m. We're like, we got a pickup. And so that to this day still is our tradition.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I remember that whenever it was, and because I'm not a big drinker, right? So one of those early, I've done. But every now and then you'd have like an editor or a camera guy that was in town. It's like, ooh, can I get another one of those? You're like, oh shit, he's gonna start for the day now.
There you go. Yeah, I love that tradition.
Have you ever done any scripted?
Yes. So our one and only scripted project turned out to be the second lowest rated film in television history. Hence, it was our only scripted project. And it was a great idea. It was called Journey to Mars.
Good.
And it was basically what would happen if humans landed on Mars and CNN reported live, right?
Okay.
So it was with the late Fred Silverman, who was fantastic. It had an amazing cast. Dean Jones, Judge Reinhold, Alfred Woodard. It was an incredible cast. We shot it at CBS Studios, and it was a full-on film. And it was literally like, Plan 9 from, like one of those. Yeah, Kenwood. Literally the first notes from CBS, Jeff Sagansky called and goes, oh, I didn't realize this was a Zucker movie, which is a comedy, like Airplane. And our director was like, no, it's serious. Because, the spaceship walls were literally, 4 corners. We instead of hiring the set designer for Star Trek or whatever was hot at the time, this is 1995, we brought in like Murder, She Wrote set director. So it's like putting upholstery on the walls. It's a spaceship going to. And the other thing was great. Judge Reinhold was the Astro journalist. And so he would speak in direct time to Alfre Woodard at CNN. And they would have a discussion just like you and I are having. Except the science of it is he's 50 million miles away and there's a delay, right? And as the executive in our network said, I can't go in the backyard and make a phone call without losing the signal. Why does Judge Reinhold look like he's like in the same room? It's because he is in the same room. That's where we filmed. So that was our attempt at scripted. And I'm proud to say it's got a cult following. If you Google Journey to Mars online, people are like, what did I just watch? Can I get my 2 hours back?
The crews that you've been able to put on these shows, they've got that experience because of those. Like, the crew members that you've been able to allow to have those work, think of all that experience and the stories.
Well, I kind of look at it as a little bit of a sports analogy is like, putting together a production crew is like putting together a football team, right? You have specialists as a receiver, quarterback, and so on. You're kind of the general manager, coach. You have a preseason where you're figuring out, okay, how we're going to do this show. You're undefeated before the first game, so the show in your mind is like, this is going to be great. You have the first snap where you go like, oh, okay, we shouldn't be passing the ball. Like, and you kind of go through it, and then you have a season, and you kind of go like, oh, we were 500 or we're undefeated but it's the camaraderie from that experience, from coming up with an idea, development, all the way to seeing it on air is where you form those bonds.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the special part.
What was the best meal that you've ever had? Whether it was after hours or anything, what was the best meal that you ever got taken into?
So this has two parts to that. I'll make it very quick.
No, take your time.
We're in Paris. It's Mark's Wahlberg's 44th birthday, and he invites us all to his favorite restaurants, La Louis. And it's a little alley somewhere, and in the group, it's me and the showrunner from the show. It's John McEnroe, the tennis player. It's Jimmy Butler, who plays for the Heat. And it's E, his manager. We're all sitting there. And the menu is fixed. The chef will do it because, Mark. So we go down the wine cellar, and Mark loves great wines. So he's picking out like Chateau Le Monde and a Rothschild this, and we're bringing up like bottle after bottle of this amazing stuff. The food's coming out. It's incredible. And we're eating and going like, just saying like, this is what it's all about, So I look over, and E, Derek, is Mark's, like E from Entourage. He looks at me and he goes like this. Like God. And I'm like, what? And he goes, and I turn to the showrunner and I go, I think he said he wants me to pay for dinner. And I just get this cold sweat because I'm thinking each bottle is probably X and Y. And like, I thought this was like a birthday. So I'm factoring it. Bill comes and I go over to E and I said, what's up? He goes, Mark wants the TV show to pay for dinner. I go, he does? He goes, yeah. I go, okay. Look at the bill. It's like $27,000. And as a line producer, you can imagine that's wiping out. I'm just going through my mind as wipes out audio, wipes out secondary shoots, and so on. So I'm just like literally reaching for my American Express. And the chef, Mame Louis, the owner, comes out, and he's this just gorgeous guy that comes out with these red cheeks. And he goes, Mark, you're like a son to me. Happy birthday. Tonight, the dinner is on me. Right? And I look over at E, and I'm like, let's go get another bottle of that Rothschild. That was an escape from the greatest meal to the worst experience to like, give me another one of those.
I was thinking that in the movie version of that, you just see you like in a smash cut running and hugging the chef. like just grabbing him, like tackling him to hug him.
$27,000. Like I just knew at that point I'm running a fast lane here that
the second you said he did this, because I'm like, again, being the live producer on set, all this stuff, I can't tell you. Every time I've gone out for dinner, I'm looking around and somebody's like, you're like,
I know.
Right
here. And then I'm just doing the mental math, like, okay, that's got to be, I think we're like,
did you order the chicken? I think you got the chicken. Well, Rasha, thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, my God.
Thank you for coming in and
I
talking
hope
to
this
us.
was okay.
It was great. Did you enjoy it? Did you have
Journey
fun?
down memory. I love it.
Yeah.
You know, look, it's anytime to talk about your career, especially, you know, how many years it's been and, you know, reminisce on the shows we worked on and all. I love it. It is a labor of love. So thank you.